All right, welcome to West of Tulsa. This week we are going to pull a few stunts and we're going to heal your cranium. Yeah, sounds like a lot, doesn't it? Yeah, Gabe is over giving me dirty looks already.
Did you say Ukrainian?
Sounds like Ukraine. Yeah, we're going to get political again. It sounds like a lot, but today's guest does a little bit of each. She's a motorcycle stunt rider. She also works in alternative medicine. Plus, Christina previews her Miss Motorhead event as we celebrate International Women's Day. And if you stick around, how you can support the Jessi Combs Foundation. So our guest this week, Sam Slodowitz. Did I say it right?
Not
Slodowitz.
quite. You were so close. You said it right earlier.
Slodowitz. No.
Slodowitz.
Slodowitz.
Not witch.
Man.
A lot of wits. Wits
Yeah.
instead of
Wits.
wits.
No witch.
All right.
No
I
witch
am,
here.
but no.
That's why we have these guys here.
We're getting off to a good start here.
The part I do know is you're a motorcycle stunt woman.
Yes.
That's exciting.
It's super fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
But obviously, you do so much more. We're going to talk about all of this together. So thanks for. But you also drove up. You braved all the fires in Southern California to come up here and join us in Ventura.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, the freeways were all open today.
And there was a fire that broke out not just too long ago. It was this
Yeah.
morning. So
I
there's
think
a
there
question
was-
whether you'd
yeah.
make it.
I did though.
All right. Good.
Daring.
And you did it in a high-profile van, is what it sounds like.
Yeah. Super windy.
Yeah.
Wow. So you two know each other.
Yes.
Talk
yeah.
about how you met.
Okay, so Z, who is a prospect drifter, basically, she has this program where she brings women together. I got to do like a tour of Formula Drift behind the scenes, and then she also did this special get together at Kansai Wheels, where they showed us how wheels are made. Showed us examples, took us out to the back of the warehouse. But Sam was on that little tour with me, and that's how I met her.
Okay.
So I'm super excited. I met a bunch of really cool girls that day. But yeah, we've stayed friends since then, and she's like super badass, so I love her.
And she's going to be part of your event coming up, right?
Yeah, I asked
okay.
her if she wouldn't mind. I mean, you're the first person I asked.
Aw.
And I it would be so cool if we could do some sort of like little show at the event. I don't know if it's possible because it's such a limited space, but
Yeah.
maybe
We'll just have to see what the
yeah,
sizing is.
But yeah, she's pretty awesome. So you should see some of the videos on her Instagram. She does some pretty cool stunt work. So
Well, hopefully we can work
Yeah.
some of that in, like some of the social media stuff, and
yeah,
that's your good job, Gabe. By the way, I'm adding to your workload. I'm adding to his workload here. Yeah, he's excited.
I can
can't
send you some videos.
how long ago did you start doing writing?
So I started riding regular, not stunts, probably about 4 or so years ago. And then about a year in is when I started focusing on stunts. And
You rode for a year, and then you decided you want to do stunts.
yeah,
That's a hell of an accelerated timeline.
yep, dove right in. And one thing just kind of led to the next. I ended up finding a really, really solid crew of people that trained together every Sunday down in a parking lot in Torrance. And so I showed up every Sunday, and when you ride with people who are significantly more skilled than you end up picking up, making progress. And so I've only been stunt riding maybe 3.5 tops years. But it's been really fun to
But how do you
progress.
get into that, though? I mean, so you're riding
It was an
motorcycles.
honest mistake. No, I'm kidding.
I was young. I needed the money.
What money?
Yeah.
You mean the medical bills?
Yeah. I mean, really, how all of a sudden you just say, oh, I'm going to start stunt riding? I mean, how do you do that?
I think for me, like I was riding regular right on the streets, and then one day I saw somebody do a wheelie on the freeway, and I didn't even know that was a thing that you could do. So I saw that and I was like, holy crap, wait, what? You could do that? One day, like, oh my goodness, that would be so cool if I could ever, pop a bike up or something. And then, like I said, one thing just led to the next. I have a little bit of a background in acrobatics. When I was young, probably like 14, 15, I did horse vaulting for a moment, which is when you do gymnastics on horseback. So I had a little bit of that, like, adrenaline junkie side. And with the stunt riding, a lot of people really focus on wheelies and driftings and maybe like some stoppies. But because of my acrobatic background, I like to mix what we call in stunt riding acros. So that's things like a shoulder stand or, riding the backwards, upside down, backwards, like, or riding the motorcycle. Yeah, upside down, backwards.
Not a
all that.
horse. You wouldn't ride a horse upside down backwards, would you?
I would. Yeah.
Really? Oh, damn.
I would. Yeah, that's what you should look up some videos.
I'm gonna look that up now
horse
for
vaulting.
sure.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
Wow.
So, yeah.
As if LA freeways aren't dangerous enough. All of a sudden, you also have to say, okay, I want to pop a wheelie in the middle of the 405. I mean,
Right. So I don't really do stunts in the streets. That's
Okay.
not my thing. Just because there's so much more potential for risk, and both for myself and for anybody else on the road. I think it's a little bit more reckless. It's a little bit more dangerous. To each their own, right? Like some people, that's where they shine. That's, they understand the pack dynamic and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I primarily just practice in a parking lot. So it's safer, it's controlled, I'm in full gear, and, my bike is caged up. So if it falls, it's fine, it doesn't get hurt, and it's not quite as dangerous. The things I'm doing are technically more difficult and scary, but the parameters and surroundings and stuff, the circumstances are not as.
So did you meet somebody, run into somebody who said, "Hey, you should do this, or you should try this"?
I think what happened was I had a friend, Angel, who does a lot of tandem work. So she's a circus performer and does all sorts of wild acrobatic stuff. And she is a friend of mine from the acro world. And she was doing some tandem work with one of the riders at the spot where I now train. And so she invited me to come out and hang out because I had a motorcycle. She knew I liked it. So I came one week just to watch the crew, and I was seeing what everyone was getting into out there, and showed up every Sunday since.
Wow. So you do stunts in movies, commercials. Where are you doing these stunts, and who are you doing them for?
So not yet, but that is definitely one of the
Okay.
goals, or one of the hopes. One day I'd love to be doing stunt riding, like motorcycle stunt double in TV, commercial, film, all that. I've done a couple of shows, which were more just like synchronistic situations, but mostly just passion. I mean, I'm still technically pretty new to the game. Like 3 years is not that long to
Sure.
to be doing it. So I think with time comes the relationships, the network, the reputation, and all of that. And so in the meantime, it's been a passion. It's also been like therapy for me, because having something every week to really have my mind focused and like no distractions, and giving me something to work through different challenges, whether they be mental, emotional, or physical challenges. That's been super therapeutic. And I just do it because I love it. And then I know that someday, somehow it's going to become something more. But in the meantime,
Just
I'm
having
just
fun,
enjoying
just
it.
loving
I'm
it,
having
yeah.
fun.
Do you
Passion.
Do you prefer riding on a motorcycle over riding on a horse, like the acro stuff on a horse or a bike? Does it? I mean, obviously there's
Yes.
differences, but
yeah, I think horse vaulting. It's literally a whole different animal.
hey,
Less horsepower, but
you're fading right in
She
here.
fits
Oh,
right in.
he likes me.
How come you laugh at hers? You won't laugh at mine. What is
Um,
that? My cheesy lines. That doesn't work. Okay.
I have to live with you all the time.
All right.
So I think, some of the differences between like doing this on horses versus on a motorcycle is like when you're riding a horse. I have a horse as well, just like as a pet, and I don't really ride him. It's more so for me about the relationship, and that's really important. So when you're doing these kinds of things on a horse, it's really important to be checking in, like, how's the horse feeling? What's going on for him? Is he in the mood? Does he want to today? And if he doesn't want to ride, like, I'm not the person that's going to force it and be like, okay, well, I want to ride, so we're going to do it anyway. Whereas with the motorcycle, it's all really about you. If something's going wrong, if something, if there's an issue, if you're not performing well, like, you can always bring it back to your own self versus taking a whole nother being into consideration with emotions and all of that. So if I had a bad day riding, like, I can only point the finger at myself. Obviously, like, assuming that my bike is set up right and, I'm taking care of the basic maintenance and stuff. But
Yeah.
And what do you ride? What kind of bike do you have, or bikes do you have?
yeah, so my stunt bike is a Kawasaki ZX6R 636. So it's like a 600 engine size. and it's built for stunt riding. So I have like an additional rear brake up near my clutch so that I can have my feet anywhere on the bike and not need to have my foot down by the foot brake. So if I'm up in a wheelie, I can move my feet around, or if I'm backwards or upside down, I can use that extra brake. I have my tank, instead, typically a gas tank looks like this. Mine's dented in, so I can sit in it, I can stand in it.
Oh, okay.
I can do a shoulder stand or a headstand in it. And then we have like a sprocket size that's like typically a lot smaller, but we're running like a 64 tooth sprocket, which is pretty big for a bike, but that allows it to just pop right up when I want to do a wheelie. What else do I have? Well, cages, obviously. So I'm running Impact Tech cages, and that protects the bike. So if it falls, it hits these pucks in the cage versus, messing
Taking
up
out
my
something
fairings.
important, right? And
Yeah.
expensive.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm curious. The parts for the bike that are more stunt related, are those readily available, or is that custom stuff?
It's all like you can get them from different websites or different companies that they specifically specialize in these stunt parts.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have never.
So anybody of you who are interested in stunt riding, you can go buy some parts and go break your
Totally.
neck.
Yeah.
Please don't do that.
Well, you
Wear your
alluded,
helmet.
you had alluded to it just a second ago about kind of getting hurt. I mean, what kind of injuries?
I'm like
learning.
half joking, but also, I've been lucky and grateful that I haven't had anything super major. But I also know that like anything could happen at any point in time. Some of the people I ride with like have had multiple, fractured necks or, I think the worst for me, I did sprain my neck once. That was not ideal. Don't recommend it. And then I had like a slight AC joint separation, different like small minor injuries, but nothing that's like had me not able to get back up and keep going.
Were these injuries from you falling off the bike, or are they just from strenuous use?
From falling.
Oh,
So
okay.
from wrecking. I have on my Instagram, one of my first pinned videos at the top is like just a whole compilation of my wrecks.
Oh, man.
It's great. You'll enjoy
I
it.
love that you have that on your page, because a lot of times people just post the good stuff. And I appreciate when people post the bad stuff as well, because you need to see all of it.
Yeah.
But that also makes me appreciate you so much more and what you do, because it's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
But yet you do it so well, and you're passionate about it, and you're excited about it. So yeah, when I saw that was the very first pinned video, I was like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
It's pinned like before my show video. That's also pinned.
Does that get more views than the other videos?
I honestly don't keep track of what gets what. I think like to your point about the risk and all of that, it's like one of the reasons why I've been able to stay in the game for, let's just say 3.5 years without having any super, extreme, and I don't want to jinx myself, like where's some
There's some wood back on it. Yeah.
But I feel like I take fairly calculated risks. So like I don't send a trick just because I want it. So I have a list of tricks that I want. I have things that like are goals, things that I'm actively working towards. But anytime I'm going to work towards something, I make sure that I have a very responsible approach to it. And I make sure I know what my bail is first. I know what my skill level is at the moment, and whether or not trying something is like outside of what is responsible or something that I think like, yeah, it's going to be terrifying, but practical to try or to work for, versus some people are like, oh, I want this new trick, and they just send it and send it and send it, and they get hurt and their bike gets hurt, and then they're out for 6 months, and like they get back on and they try it again. And I don't really operate that way, especially because like I have a practice in, the holistic medicine, and I can't afford to be showing up to my clients broken, and injured, or missing fingers. Or
Yeah, they're like, what
cast
happened
on
to you?
yeah.
Well, and there is a fine line, because, you talk the fine line in pushing yourself
Yeah.
and getting better
Yeah.
with almost anything, but especially if you're doing it, upside down on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So you got to push your limits a little bit, but that makes it tougher, doesn't it?
It definitely does, but it also is safer and like allows you to continue, to keep going. I think a big piece of it comes down to trust and like trusting myself and my own self-assessment of like, okay, I want this trick, but I know that I'm not in a place that this is a good idea to push for right now. So I'm going to hold off, work on some other things, and then get back to it. And also trusting the people that I ride with. So I have a couple of people that I really trust I trust how they see me. And so if there's something, they're a lot more skilled than me. So I can say, okay, there's this trick I really want. Do you think I got it? Right? And they're not going to be like, yeah, just send it. They'll be like, I do think you can do it. Let's build up to it. Or they'll say, I think you should,
do this
focus
first.
on this first.
Yeah.
And we'll practice, like when I was working on, there's this trick called coffins.
That sounds
I
fun.
was about to say,
Yeah.
name for a trick, but
Exactly. Yeah, not a lot of people do it because it's a very technical trick. You first have to sit backwards and ride like switchback, which is, already challenging. A lot of people aren't doing that. But then you jump from sitting, bring your hands to the back seat, and then bring a foot to the handlebar. And you use your foot to control the handlebar instead of your hand. So it's a very technical and very scary trick. So before I got there, I had the bike standing parked and I just practiced the jump, just jumping up to the right position so that I know when I try it live, my body has like the mental, muscle memory of where to go. So I would do it first at a standstill and then I'd have my friends push the bike. It's not even on. They're just pushing it to kind of simulate movement. And then I try it again and I jump up and jump off. So I wasn't even trying to jump and hold it. I have a video on my Instagram too that just kind of shows the breakdown of me learning that trick. So practice the bail every time, like jump up, jump down, jump up, jump down. It's that whole wax on, wax off, right?
Yeah, sure.
I felt like in the karate.
muscle
kid.
memory and
Yeah.
yeah.
But the more you train these like foundational things, then when you're actually trying it live, something happens. Like for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, when I'm trying something for the first time, my brain just goes blank. And anything that I knew, like I'll get onto the bike and forget that I know how to ride a motorcycle. Like, do I even, like, where's the clutch? How do you,
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Hey, but you have to trust your equipment as much as anything else, I would
As
imagine.
well,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, geez, if I'm going to try some new thing, can the bike do it?
As well. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But also, like, if you take care of it, like, it shouldn't,
Be that big
It
of an issue.
shouldn't- yeah.
Okay.
yeah, it shouldn't fail you unless, like,
I was curious. I used to race motocross. Like I grew up racing motocross and so on. Besides your helmet, what protective gear do you always wear? Like, are you in full leathers? What do you wear? I mean, you're
Yeah.
wearing like jeans and a t-shirt. Like, what do you wear?
so the most important thing for me outside of a helmet is my shin guards, like
Okay.
knee and shin guards. So I have these pads that come from about here to here, because I'm constantly hitting my knee on like the bike, on
Okay.
all that kind of stuff.
Are those special, like custom made just for
No.
that, or are they like soccer shin guards? Or
I think they would be like maybe dirt bike
Okay.
shin guards or
Okay.
something like that. I'm not sure. And then gloves, obviously super
Right.
important too, because if you fall, like hands come down.
yeah.
Other than that, I have this like little, I'll always wear something on my top that has elbow and
So like some kind of jacket, like
some
a riding
kind of jacket.
type thing?
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
like super bulky stuff because I'm moving around a lot.
Yeah. Well, you're being acrobatic,
I'm
right?
being acrobatic, so I like to have movement. Like my jeans will be just like regular stretchy jeans, something that's a little bit thicker than leggings, so that if I do come down, it doesn't rip right through.
So
But
if you hit the pavement, you've got head protection, hand protection, knee and shin protection.
Knee and shin
The shins
protection.
cover your knees. The shin
shin guards, yeah.
They cover your knees.
Yeah,
So,
so
if you
they-
scrape on asphalt, you're not going to like eat your knees away. and
exactly.
stuff. Okay.
Because I see a lot of people in stunt riding who have just like scratched up, fucked up knees, and
Yeah,
like they've had
yeah.
surgeries, and
I
like
would
not,
think so, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously like I can still get hurt. There's still impact and all of that, but at least I'm doing, I'm doing what I can to make it not as
But no neck
dangerous.
brace. No,
Thankfully,
no
no
big
neck
heavy
brace.
boots. Like, what about your
No.
footwear? Are you wearing boots or just tennis shoes?
No,
or-
yeah, just like Nikes or
Okay,
something. Yeah,
okay.
I do have a friend who rides with a neck brace,
Yeah.
but he's broken his neck twice.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
Man.
he needs
That's a
that.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you fill out an insurance form, do you tell them what you do? For
No, I
You're high risk.
work in healthcare.
You're in a high risk category.
I'm an energy medicine practitioner. What do you
Covered
mean?
California. Yeah, I'm in this category.
Good.
Wow.
Hopefully, no State Farm agents watch this show.
No.
Not like they're good for anything.
True that.
Off the record.
Oh, wow.
So, is this a big community? Like, are there a lot of people that are doing this?
It's like when you're in it, yes. When you're not, people don't even know that it's a thing.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, there's a lot more people in it than you would realize.
Mm-hmm.
And what I love so much about the community is it's like worldwide. So when I'm traveling, I can connect with stunt riders in any
wow.
country. And we
that's cool.
instantly have this like mutual passion. And there's just like an unspoken knowing and respect and all of that. So when I was traveling, like, couple years ago, I spent time in Israel and connected with a stunt crew out there.
Oh, sick.
And like they hosted me. I got to ride their bikes and we had like a whole
Wow.
yeah, super
awesome.
fun. And then
That's
same
really
thing,
cool.
Thailand or like anywhere you go, we're
That's
out
cool.
there.
And is it a predominantly male dominated? So how is it being a woman in this male
Yeah.
arena?
Definitely predominantly male dominated. There are women, and that makes me really happy. Like one of my biggest goals is like inspire the women and make the men cry.
I love it.
Christina's
Miss
eyes light
Motorhead's
up.
new
Yeah.
tagline.
Inspire
the women and make the men
cry.
That's a bumper
that's a
sticker. You're
bumper
working
sticker.
on it.
It's a t-shirt for sure.
For sure.
I love it.
Yeah, so I mean, thankfully, my experience, because I'm with a really good crew, I feel like they respect me. I feel like they take care of me. I feel like they want me to succeed just as much as anybody else. But like on the internet, it's kind of a different story. My personal Instagram has cultivated like a solid, good community because I feel like that's just, my standard. But like if I ever have a video that just goes viral outside of my network, there's a lot of the like sexism and also sexualizing and like all of that. So it can be annoying, but I feel like I don't know, I take a sense of pride in like being a woman in this sport and doing things that men aren't even dreaming of doing.
Yeah.
And then obviously inspiring other girls to feel like, oh, if she can do it, then like, why can't I? Because that's how I started, right? I saw girls doing it and I was like, holy crap, like she's not taller than me or she's not, stronger than me or whatever it is. Like if she can do it, I could probably do it. Yeah.
That's something I want to ask you too is size. Because I think there are some people who are intimidated because they may feel they're too small or too big to ride.
Yeah.
So do you see that as an issue with fellow riders too? Or is like everybody different shapes and sizes and that never really is an issue?
All sorts of different shapes and sizes. What it comes down to is just setting up your bike to be right for you. So I bought my bike from someone who was significantly taller than me. And I didn't realize until I adjusted the handlebars literally last week what a big difference it made. Or like things like, my hands are smaller than his were. And so the clutch was farther, the handbrake was farther. And like I've been working against myself for months. And then I make these slight adjustments to match my body size, and it makes a really big difference.
And these are things you're figuring out on your own. Like someone didn't say like, hey, your handlebars need to be adjusted or whatever. You just kind of figured it out as you're going.
Kind of. So the way that I found the handlebar piece out was I was adjusting my brakes, and then they didn't fit because the lever that was hitting the line, which was hitting the handlebar. So my friend Jason was like, well, if you just bring the handlebars down a little bit, like up and out or whatever, it'll fix that issue. And I did. And then suddenly wheelies became easier. And I was like, what the heck? Like this was so hard. I've been fighting myself and now it makes sense. And then Johnny, who I bought the bike from, was like, oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm a lot taller than you. So I guess it makes sense that you would have to, we didn't even think about that. Yeah. Like, great.
That makes sense.
It does make sense.
Totally makes sense.
I'm like, what else am I missing here?
Right,
Like,
right.
Do you wrench on your bike or do you have somebody help you out or what?
I have a couple of guys that I ride with that help me with things that I need help with, but I love to watch them and learn so that I don't need them, basically.
Yeah.
At first, they would just do it all for me. And then now that I'm getting a little bit more familiar with all the things, they're like not just doing it for me. They'll like hand me the tool and be like, okay, you need, you know, the 4mm for this. And
Does it help you understand the bike a little bit better? So when you're actually doing it, you can, you know, you're going to be more connected to the bike, you think?
Definitely.
Yeah.
So when I understood like how to tighten or loosen my clutch, for example, I understood how it changes the timing of my wheelies. And so when I clutch up and it feels a little weird, now I can be like, oh, let me just adjust this a little bit because I have understanding. Same thing with like tire pressure, right? Like if my tire pressure is significantly higher than I want it to be for a trick I'm working on, I know to lower it or to, you know, pump it up a little bit. So the more you get to know your machine, the more, you know, the more intuitive, the more you can work with
This
it.
sounds a lot like drifters, how they customize their car for their style of drifting. You know,
Yeah.
it's a competition, but it's not a competition of who gets there first. It's, you know, style.
Yeah.
So, are you more into the acrobatic and the stylistic part, or are you in motorsports too? Do you like the motorsport side of it? Obviously, you kind of have the two. But is there one you lean towards more? Like, are you more into like the acrobatics and the tricks, or are you actually into like the bikes themselves? Do you nerd out on the bikes and stuff like that? I would imagine you would, but you never know.
Definitely. I mean, before I knew that the acrobatics were a thing, before I knew stunt riding was a thing, I was definitely like an obsessive motorcycle, like, you know, your classic biker chick.
Oh, okay, so you were into bikes before this.
Once I started riding.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay.
always loved them. I always knew that I wanted to ride eventually one day, but I never got around to it. And then once I did, I went all in. I probably put like 10,000 miles on my first bike in the first year. Like
Wow.
I put a lot. I rode a lot. I loved it. It was fun. And then once I found that like you could do more,
You were just
it's
hoping.
endless.
Is your
Yeah.
bike a 4-cylinder 4-stroke?
Okay, wait, don't ask me those questions.
Okay, I was just curious.
Can I phone a friend?
Okay,
Wait, hold on.
I'm getting too techno nerdy.
Hold on.
right now.
I find that interesting coming from Dan.
Yeah, but he was
Coming out of the-
Well, I know
Yeah, but he
motorcycles.
rode
I
motorcycles,
rode
that's why.
motocross.
No, I know.
He's not a car guy. Remember, he's a motorcycle guy.
The embarrassing thing is I know that I know the answer to that because I've definitely had conversations
Okay.
about it, but I don't remember off the top of my
I'm
head.
just in my
what-
mind. I was just trying to picture because that sounds like an unusual bike. That's not a bike you typically see guys
The
riding around on the
ZX6R?
street. Yeah.
It's super common.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
super
okay.
common. It just happens to be the ideal bike for stunt riding as well. So
Okay.
we'll take a regular stock CX6R
Okay.
that you'll see. Like you'll see plenty
Okay.
of 636s on
Is that
the
like a
street.
canyon carver kind of bike? Like it's low slung and everything's like trim and low, like that kind of bike? It's not like a touring.
It's
big
not a touring.
bike.
No, it's a Ninja. So
Okay.
yeah,
A
it's
ninja makes sense to me. I know what a ninja
Yeah.
is, right? Okay.
So you'll be like hunched over for
Got
sure.
it. Okay. Yeah, I got to check out your Instagram. I got to like
Yeah.
see you
Yeah,
on
yeah,
your
yeah.
bike doing your
It's
thing.
pretty
so-
amazing.
And,
Should.
and it's at Sam Slod.
Sam Slod, yeah. So
okay.
just the first half of my
In
last
case
name.
anybody wanted to go
Right.
check it out.
Yes,
I meant to
yes.
say that earlier too, but
Yeah.
SLAD?
Yeah.
What a
SLOD.
rookie.
SLOD.
Yeah.
Sam
Yeah.
Slod.
Sam
Okay.
Slod,
I got to
yes.
check that out.
Yeah.
Sounds cool.
I'm curious. A quick question. So, was there somebody specific who inspired you to just start writing, or is it just something that always looked interesting to you and you just did it yourself, or?
So I always knew that I wanted to ride. Ever since I was little, this is going to sound really silly, but ever since I was little, if I'd be driving, like I'm in the car or whatever, and then somebody would ride past on a motorcycle, I would like close my eyes and imagine that I was them and like feeling the air.
Wow.
Oh yeah, you were
Kind of
destined.
like, I would just like imagine how it felt. I'd like close my eyes and I'd picture myself on the bike and the thrill that like filled me up.
Yeah.
You had the fever early.
Well,
I got-
for
It
sure.
sounds like
I
the
got
horses
the-
were just a stepping stone to
Yeah.
the bike.
Yeah.
Right?
Right?
I had 1 horsepower, and now I'm going to go for many.
Many more. Yeah. So I always knew. And then it was just a matter of like waiting until it felt like it was a responsible thing to do, you know, a safe thing to do. And once I jumped in, obviously, there was no turning back.
Do you have any desire to race bikes, or you just you want to stick to the
Stick to
more
stunts.
styles? Okay.
I've done track day a couple of times on my 400 that I used to have. And it's fun. And it teaches you, you know, some technical things. But it's not as fun for me as the stunts.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think it's cool to be like well-rounded, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's like the drifters. You know, they don't want to do the track days, but they'll do the track days because they can obviously apply that to
Yeah.
the drifting. I feel like there's a lot of a lot of parallels here.
Yeah.
You know, because you're basically drifting seems like ballet on in 4 wheels, but you're
Yeah.
doing acrobat on 2 wheels, so I feel like it's almost the same.
And that in regards to drifting too, like there's tandem. So do you do like tandem stunts with other riders as well?
So with stunt riding, there's like what we call tandems would be 2 people on 1 bike.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that what you mean? Or
Okay.
you mean like
Two bikes.
Side by
Yeah.
side, like 2
Yeah.
bikes
Yeah.
doing something.
So what does that consist? So tandem is 2 on
we
one
could do
bike.
both. Yeah.
Okay.
So when we're riding together, like on Sundays, for example, sometimes we'll like someone will be doing one trick and then someone else will come in and start doing something with them. So if we're circling, let's say doing circle wheelies, you can have 2 or 3 or however many people all circling together. And, you know, that
Almost
takes-
like a ballet kind of thing, right?
yeah,
You're just all-
it's a little
do you coordinate
dance.
that before you start riding? You just
No.
kind of just, I'm going to go over here.
Yeah.
Really? So
And
it's all freestyle.
It's freestyle.
Oh,
It's all
wow.
freestyle. You have to know your limits and know the people that you're riding with, know their limits, right? So you want to trust them, right? If someone's like, for example, if I'm doing circles and I just started learning this trick, none of them are going to come and try and do it with me because they know that like I'm probably going to come down and I have no control yet and I don't know where I'm going. And if I'm heading towards you, get out of the way.
Yeah.
You know, but people who have that like rapport, right? So there's a certain trick that I love doing with somebody. If someone's doing a wheelie, circle wheelie, and then I will get into that coffin position that I described earlier. So I'm riding backwards, and then I'll take one hand up and I'll reach for the front tire of their wheelie and spin it.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So like that takes such precision. I'll show you the video of
Oh,
that.
wow. That's cool.
It takes such precision and so much trust that I can handle my own bike and that he can handle his bike. And then taking getting the exact right moment where they're close enough, but not too close that they might,
Like that.
exactly, except way more dangerous, right? And then like reach forward and grab that tire and spin it. So that's a really fun one.
Wow. I want to see that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to visualize it while you're describing
Man, I
it.
don't even trust my friends that follow me in the canyon. I don't know. That does take it sounds like a lot of trust, for
trust.
sure.
It takes a lot. Yeah. And then when it comes to the other type of tandem, where you'd have 2 riders on one bike, so one person could be riding regular or doing wheelies or whatever it might be, and then somebody else would be doing different tricks or acrobatics on the bike with them while they're doing it. So my friend Angel, who I mentioned earlier, does a lot of that kind of stuff. So there's some cool tricks that can be done
Wow.
like that.
That's wild.
Man.
It is.
Done that on a surfboard, but you fall off. It's like there's water.
It's
But
water,
in
yeah.
your case, you hit concrete. It's like,
Yeah.
oh man.
And there's some really really impressive saves when I was trying to do a trick with Angel, and I'm like climbing around the bike and I go upside down and backwards and whatever, and then we come down because we're still working on it. So we fall a couple of times. And like now as the rider, I'm paying attention not just to like myself and the bike, but like how to keep her safe too. Right. So it takes like
Are a lot of the tricks at slower speeds, or are there any high speed tricks as well, or is it all of them?
most of the tricks that I'm doing are at slower speeds. We have an idle adjuster. That's another modification on the stunt bike. So we can like control how fast the bike is going without needing to be on the throttle. So when I'm doing acrobatic tricks, I'm not touching the throttle at all. I just have the idle set to a certain RPM.
Oh, that's how you guys do that. I always
Yeah.
wondered. I was
Yeah.
like, how when they're backwards and doing stuff with your hands here,
right.
like what's
Exactly.
Once you get a
controlling
string.
the bike? Yeah, just-
Yes.
I always figured it was
control,
like
cruise control.
some kind of foot pedal
Basically.
thing. I figured,
Yeah.
but,
Told
So-
you there'd be some stupid comments here.
yeah.
No, but that's not. But that's basically what it is, right? So,
A string? No.
No. Oh, the
Cruise control.
the cruise control. The cruise control. I didn't even register the string. So depending on the trick I'm doing, I'll adjust it to like slightly slower, slightly faster. The only trick that does take speed, and I'm not really doing these yet because I'm a little bitch, but no, I'm kidding. No, because it's really dangerous and really scary. Stoppies, you have a really quick approach. So you'll get on the throttle, go really fast. The faster you go, the safer it is, which is like, hard for the brain.
Yeah.
And then you hit the brakes and get up on that front tire and slide. So
And slide?
Yeah.
You slide on the front
roll,
wheel?
you roll
Yeah.
it.
Oh, roll.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, roll.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
So I'm not really doing those yet. I can like get up probably like this much. And I'm just not really putting in work for those right now because I have other things that I'm focusing on. But most of the stunts that we're doing are slower speed. And people think that like chasing a wheelie at 100 miles an hour on the freeway is impressive, but that actually takes significantly less skill than riding a wheelie at 5 miles an hour.
Well, because you're using momentum really at speed, right? And at slow, you're really using kind of throttle.
all balance.
balance.
It's all,
Wow.
That makes
Was
sense.
wheelie the very first thing you learned as a stunt?
I guess so. Like, I started working on a Z125 or like a Grom, so it's a smaller size bike, and just practicing like popping it up ever so slightly. And it took a while. It takes a long time to learn that initial step. So, yeah, I think that may have been the first thing that I focused on. Yeah.
I have a question, but it may mess with your head a little bit, and I don't want to fuck things
You
up.
want to
for
wait
you.
until the
Yeah.
end?
But I'm going to ask it anyway, and you can ignore me. So when you're
I'll just take off the headphones.
so when you're thinking about, and I thought about this while you were talking about doing that, where you hit the brakes and kind of
Yeah.
lift up. When you're visualizing the trick you're about to do, which you've never done before,
Yeah.
how often do you, or maybe you don't, this is the part that might fuck up your head, visualize what could go wrong?
Every time.
Okay.
Every
Because I'm
time.
thinking, when I was thinking, when you were describing that move, I'm thinking the first thing, I'd fuck that thing up, I'd go face plant straight into the concrete, and it would probably stop me from doing.
Yeah.
Does your brain go there too when you're
Every time.
Okay.
So the most dangerous part about stoppies is if you don't have enough speed for it to start rolling, the lack of momentum, but like there's still momentum from the bike coming up, the bike will just flip.
Yeah.
So if you flip a stoppie, now you have no way to get out of the way. So not
Right.
only are you falling forward, but now the bike is falling on top,
Top
of
of
you.
you.
Oh.
And that was what I was getting at, is
Yeah.
that
And so
if
you have that scrape bar,
Oh, yeah.
which is at the back of the bike, will just come straight for your, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
No,
that's
that's
what I
pretty
was
big.
saying when she was describing it. I'm thinking, okay, visualizing what could go wrong with that
Yeah.
one, and
Yeah.
it's serious. It's
So with
not,
every trick that we try, there's like that conversation. For example, with the coffins, I'm jumping up onto the bike. If I fall or the bike falls, which is going to happen a bunch of times as you're learning, the most dangerous thing that could happen is like my fingers can go into the sprocket, right? Chain and sprocket, I could lose my fingers. So thinking about that every time you fall, but you can't not think about it because then you're not prepared.
you might be careless.
Exactly.
I was
So-
just gonna say it's the same thing. Like when I go onto the track and race, I am constantly thinking about what can go wrong, or this ledge here, or this, I can go off here, or I could go up here, I could flip here. I'm constantly thinking about all the bad things, which is just mentally preparing you to handle those
Right.
situations when they do.
Yeah.
come up, if they
And
do.
I guess it maybe comes down to the person, because some people, it would stop them from ever doing it.
Yeah.
For other people, like maybe in your case, where you're still going to do it, but now you're just going to take extra steps to make sure that it's done the right way.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, doing it responsibly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the strength of so many stunt riders comes from, is the ability to face danger, like, in the eye, and recognize, like, have all those thoughts, right? This could happen, that could happen. I could fall. I could, if I do a wheelie and I could flip out. And like, I imagine all the things, like I lose control of the bike, it goes into the vans, it hits my friend's van, and like all the things, right? I send the bike straight into traffic, or like we picture all of it, but then knowing that, like, okay, well, I'm taking the steps that I need to take, I know what I'm doing, I'm not being reckless, and then pushing through it and doing it anyway.
yeah.
That's really where the strength comes from.
Well,
So I didn't mess you up then by asking.
No,
that question.
yeah.
So then you have the opposite side of that, CJ, whereas like you're not thinking about that and you're doing it anyway.
That's right.
I mean, to me that sounds
Totally.
reckless because you're not considering
You're
the
not
dangers and
being-
you're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's probably some of that element. Maybe some guys, people doing those things without
Without
regarding it.
calculating all the things, for sure.
And the results kind of speak for themselves, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
Well, and I think it's just a fine line, finding that balance of like taking all that into consideration, right? And then learning how to quiet it so that you can actually go ahead and do it. Because if you're only listening to that and you have that playing in your mind the whole time, you're not going to start. You're not going to go out, right? So it's like taking all of it into consideration, dotting your T's.
If you dot your T's, you have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a weird looking T, man.
It's a German. It's some kind of German umlaut thing or something. Yeah.
You know, crossing your T's, dotting your I's. All that. Look, I'm a stunt rider. No, I'm kidding. I don't really do the whole. But then learning how to, like, when your helmet comes on, and then for me, like, I'll take a breath. I'll take a moment to ground. And if my head is running like that and I can't get the intrusive thoughts out of my mind, I'll stop. I'll go take a break. I'll go have a drink of water. I'll go, you know, change my headspace so that, because there's a point too of like, if all you're visualizing is bad stuff happening, that's kind of what you're going to make happen.
Yep.
Right. So you have to learn how to like, okay, but now when I try it, what am I looking for? I'm looking for this position and this success, and like focus on that as well.
I mean, you're touching a really interesting point, because, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of mental health type of things that you need to consider, right? Because you need to be in the right headspace to get into this, right?
Yeah.
So is that a big draw to this too? Because you have to be focused. It's not like you could do this thing like aimlessly, like, you know, washing a car. I could think about something else. You have to really be focused on this, right? Or else you're going to pay the price. Is that something that attracted you to the sport in the beginning? Is that focus?
I think so. I started stunt riding when I was going through a pretty challenging time in my life, and having the space that was like, okay, this is all you think about here, and everything else you leave. Like, you know, once that helmet comes on, if you're for me, like, I'm a very emotional person. If I'm crying, like, I can't see. If I can't see well, you know, like, then I'm not going to be safe. If I'm like having super like high anxiety and I'm a little shaky or something like that, then I'm not going to have as much control. And so it kind of forces me to check myself, forces me to keep myself in a good and healthy headspace. And if I'm not, sometimes it's like, okay, well, then you can't ride right now, you know, fix your shit. And then the reward for, you know, working through whatever it is now I can ride.
I have a question for you, Sam.
Yeah.
Talking about flow state, I mean, you get a little metaphysical here and so on, but anyone, race car drivers included, you know, I've ridden with drifters and people in race cars and stuff. There is that thing about when you're in the zone and it's just smooth and you don't think about all the details. You don't have to. It's just like corner to corner carving, you know, in racing case. Do you find sometimes you have a day like that where it's just like, I wasn't even conscious of all these things that could go wrong, and I just focused and just, man, it all worked?
Absolutely. I think that's like the favorite place to be. Like, that's what we work towards.
Yeah.
It takes work to get there.
Oh, of
right?
course.
So once you've embodied whatever it is that you're working on, whatever that skill is, then you can just drop it, because your body knows what to do, your mind knows what to do. It becomes second nature. And that flow state, like, I have music in my helmet, so I can be listening to whatever I want to be, you know, jamming out to.
You're playing music while you're doing the tricks?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I typically will turn it down if I'm working on something new, so that I can hear, you know, the bike, I can hear more feedback from the bike. But once I've got it locked in, I have my music on, and that flow state is like, it's heaven.
It's the best, right?
Okay, I want to
know what.
Yeah,
I want to know. Yeah, let's get the playlist. I want the playlist.
We were going to all ask the same question at the same time.
Wait,
What music? What music?
Before you answer that, let's all guess. Let's all guess.
Oh, I'm going to have no clue. I'll have no clue.
Guess. It's a guess.
It's a guess.
I'm
Wrong. No, I'm kidding.
See, she knows already.
Wait, let everybody guess, and then she'll tell us what
Okay,
the answer is.
I know what I'm gonna say.
So say it.
Spit it out, Junior.
Taylor Swift.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
I knew that was your answer.
You're fucking fired, man. You're fucking
Taylor
fired.
Swift. Oh, man.
I had to say
I'm gonna
it.
die if
I
it
just
is,
had
though.
to say it. Oh my God.
Tay-Tay.
Okay.
Oh.
Sorry,
All right,
that's
Dan.
Corn freak on a leash.
Oh my
Corn.
goodness.
Man.
I don't even know what
I'm going the
that
opposite
is.
direction here.
Are you
Opposite of
aging
CJ.
yourself? What was that? I don't know what that is.
Man.
I was like, yeah.
Okay, Rage Against the Machine, something like
That's
that.
the
now that'd be cool.
Okay,
That's
that,
the-
Okay.
yeah, that
Rage.
There you
That'd
go.
be
What
cool.
about you, Christina?
I was gonna say some sort of like indie kind of chill vibe kind of music. Nothing too crazy, but I don't know. That's kind of hard for me because like I know when I'm driving fast, I like to listen to, EDM. So, but you're not necessarily driving fast. You're focused. You're like more focused. So I don't know.
I want to say classical.
Nice.
Okay.
So
Some
what's
good
the answer?
options. I mean, I would say it's like a mix of everything.
Damn it.
because-
Including Taylor Swift?
No. You were already voted off the
I wasn't, you're right. I wasn't, no.
CJ, I'll give you a reprieve because you have 2 daughters. But
That's
still,
probably where it came from.
So
I hope so.
to your point of like, it's more meditative for me. Like it almost feels like I'm dancing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm dancing with the motorcycle. And so sometimes I love having like more of the flowy, super slow, soft music. Sometimes there's like certain type of binaural beats that I like to play that kind of get my brain in a good state to find that zone or find that alpha. But sometimes, like if I'm feeling kind of pissed or I'm angry or whatever, and I just want to be drifting for 10 minutes, I will have like loud, angry music. And I'm just like, drifts are so good for when you're angry. Like you just get it all out, you know?
Yeah. Like System of a Down or.
Totally.
There you go.
Totally. But then sometimes just like chill, sometimes like more inspiring or motivating music.
Okay.
So
Also, the
there's, like,
playlist is
it
determined on the
varies.
tricks and the
it
style
varies
of
on how
writing
I'm
you're
feeling,
All right.
the day.
It's
yeah.
a curated playlist.
Totally.
That
And
makes
then
sense. That
I
makes
go
totally
as far
makes
as
sense.
like,
Yeah.
I'm like weird with it because when I post videos to my Instagram later, I like to have like the right song for the right
that makes
video.
sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll be listening to a song and then I'm like, okay, this song with this trick. And then I'll listen to it while I'm working on that trick because I can already visualize when I get that trick and I'm going to post it with this song.
great.
So
Okay.
I could see it'd be cool with reggae. Some of the movements like
on the right day,
it'd be-
on the
it's
right
some
day.
reggae in there. I'm getting closer.
I-
I started with Taylor
Started
Swift and now I've gone to reggae.
So pretty much anything you said after that.
Exactly.
Was
Anything
gonna
I
be-
feel like
Yeah.
playing clown music right now.
Oh man.
Jesus.
Too funny.
Yeah, what do you usually listen to other than like
It's funny if I'm doing like canyon carving, like canyon runs and stuff, I typically listen to like a mix. I actually have like a crazy mix that has things like alternative, like System of a Down, Rage Against the Machine, but I also have like some EDM stuff like Dead Mouse and Blomquist and
oh my goodness. Your poor nervous system.
I know. I
It's
have
just like-
my moods change,
Yeah.
so I'm just kind of all over the place.
Do you
But
ever
I-
do like
I-
super chill while you're like out there going
But I
crazy?
also love classical. So like I have.
Are you
piano.
always music while driving? Always.
Oh, I'm a huge music person. I'm
no,
a
I
very,
mean just driving, like this
Yeah.
specific for driving. You just
like
always
my
music?
daily regular driving.
No, I mean like
or-
spirited driving or track driving or
Yes.
when you're at,
even
really-
when I'm racing at the track, I play music.
really.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I do
Wow.
because I don't know, music just centers me. It makes me focused. I love it. I'm a huge music person though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like music and emotion are like big with me. I'm an emotional person. So like music has just always been, that's why I like going to festivals and concerts all the
Yeah.
time. Cause
Yeah.
I just gravitate toward, it's a mood thing for me.
Yeah.
It can also help take your mind off of those intrusive, those
Yes,
scary
yeah,
thoughts
that's
or
true.
whatever. Because for me, like, same thing if I'm snowboarding and I'm like working on a certain jump or trick or whatever, like, if I have music or like I'll sing the words in my head to distract my brain from focusing on the negative
Yes.
things. So once I know that I did my part, I dotted my T's. Once I did my part to make sure that I'm not being reckless about it, now I want those thoughts to go away so that I can focus on the success. And so having the right song, the right music can kind of get me in that flow state so I can focus on
Yes.
that and sing the words or feel the beat or whatever, and then kind of forget that I was doing something that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you have a lot of maybe like a spiritual aspect to what you've been doing, and even, I would imagine that transfers over into the medicine that you practice or do. Can you explain a little bit about that? I mean, I'm curious to know what that
Yeah, I'm curious
type of
too.
medicine is.
It was because we called it alternative healthcare at the time.
Yeah.
So what do you do and why do you describe it as alternative healthcare?
Sure. So, alternative, complementary, integrative, like there's lots of different ways. Ultimately, it's holistic. And when we say holistic, what we mean is we're looking at the whole picture versus just one aspect of it.
Sure.
So as humans, we have many layers and facets and, you know, reasons for why we would be out of balance or unwell, right? And so there's going to be different ways to get us back into balance. And I think that sometimes when we approach healthcare from a symptom-focused, you know, perspective, we're missing what got the person out of balance to begin with.
Because everything's
right?
connected, right? To some extent, everything's connected.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. And so the work that I do is a mix of physical body work, working with craniosacral fascia therapy, which is just like helping unwind tension in the body. But I also couple it with my background in energy medicine, which is something I studied since I was 18 years old. And it's a mix of like Eastern, Western, Vedic, like all these different, ultimately it's a mix of science, psychology, and spirituality, which we can look at as like mind, body, and soul. And if we have all those things working in harmony and we find out what's going on underneath, like, you know, the root cause of any given symptom, we can address it there. We can bring the body back into balance, and then the body can heal itself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've heard of so many stories, not so many, but a few stories where it was really intriguing to me is like where guys get diagnosed with some kind of cancer, right? And instead of doing like the chemotherapy and going the traditional medicine route, they, you know, went to the extremes and like, you know, ate only raw vegetables and did this thing and, you know, worked out, and then their cancer went into remission or whatever. And I actually do believe in that, you know, our body's so powerful. So everything you're saying, it gels well with me because I've heard of stories like that. So why can that be true for a lot of people, not just a few?
And also, it doesn't have to be such an extreme measure taken in order to correct some of these things.
Yeah.
I think, like, not to nerd out too much, I'm going to nerd out for a second. Something that I find super fascinating is epigenetics. I don't know if you've heard of any of that at all. Oh my God, so many no's in the room. Okay, cool.
Well, we're also dumb. Not except Christina. The guys here are dumb. Christina's not. So
I agree with that.
basically, it just like it's the study and the science of like how your body responds to different environmental stressors and how it actually rewrites its code on how to function based on what's going on. So someone who's lived through a certain trauma, and this could be like you personally, or it could be your dad or your grandma or somebody ancestrally, because this kind of stuff gets passed down genetically. The body will update its markers based on what it went through in order to survive. And sometimes that means shutting off important things or turning on unhelpful things for survival. And then once you're no longer in that trauma state or that experience, the body didn't ever go back to what it was before. It kind of got stuck in that creating those like genes or whatever. Yeah.
Wow.
And so these show up in things like sometimes generations down the line. And when we can go in and kind of update these epigenetic markers or make these changes on these deeper levels, again, whether they be science-based or whether they be more like energy-based, like working with the chi or working with the chakras or working with like different things like that, it can really have a profound impact on not just you, but your children moving forward and like all of that. So I'm super passionate about that as
Interesting.
Yeah.
Deep stuff.
But you didn't have that on your bingo card today, huh, CJ?
No, when I'm sitting there thinking about how I fucked up my two daughters, I was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, you
Not
know,
just them, but their kids.
their
as well.
kids. I'm gonna fuck them up.
Oh my goodness.
Oh jeez.
Yeah.
It's all your surfing.
I've already
injuries, CJ.
traumatized my daughter, so I'm,
Oh my God.
It's true though, because for me, it's like it's our bodies. We all have this energy, and we live on this like vibration. And I feel like a lot of times people don't realize, like people are so quick to just diagnose and give you medication,
Take a
for
pill,
things.
numb the symptoms.
React.
But they don't come
Band-Aids.
back to like the center of the body.
Why did it happen?
All, So the whole alternative, I think that is like the future, to be honest.
Which
with
is
you.
ironic to me that they call it alternative, because this is actually
Yes.
the way it should have been, and that way it was
Absolutely.
before modern medicine came
Absolutely.
around.
Yeah.
Man, we're getting off
Western.
car subject, aren't we?
I mean,
We're getting very metaphysical.
I like it though.
Okay.
I like it. You know
But
what?
yeah, but it's a part
I like
of
it.
Sam, so like I love that
No,
you shared that.
no,
I think that's great.
Because we're learning something new today,
Yes.
and our viewers will learn something new today
Yes.
too. Because whether you do or don't believe it, it's here. Choose it.
Yeah.
But people I think we can all agree, don't want to get sick. They don't want to get hurt, and they always want help when that happens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where do you find that help? And me personally, I don't like going to the doctor because usually, majority times, unfortunately, they don't fix what the problem is.
No, they just prescribe.
And there's a time and
Yeah.
place where like Western medicine is absolutely
Sure.
crucial and important, right? Like if I just had a bad wreck, right, and I have a bone sticking out, like take me to
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
emergency room,
Right.
right? If I'm
Yeah.
bleeding out, like take
Yeah.
me to a doctor.
Yeah.
But I think tying it into this conversation and why it's helpful in this industry is like, as you know, athletes who are doing extreme sports, we're getting hurt a lot,
Yeah.
right? We're throwing ourselves around, we're hitting our head, we're all of that. And if we're not getting the care that we need to help our bodies recover, things start to layer. And then suddenly 5 years in, 10 years in, you know, we're not walking like we used to. Our brain's foggy, we're like stiff and whatever. Versus if we get that care and we can support our body in being able to heal in a more natural and holistic way, then we can do a lot more. We can stay in the game longer.
I mean, on top of all that, with all the injuries, I've heard of rally drivers who got injuries over the years, and then they get hooked on pain meds, and then they start getting to the next thing, which is probably some illicit drug or whatever, and then the mental part, it's just snowballing into this
Yeah,
negative effect.
right.
So it feels like the mind, body, and spirit need to be in alignment, especially for people in the sports like yours where there's a lot of injury prone
Yes,
activity,
right.
that might help for those things. So it's interesting that you're into that. Were you into that before you got into the writing? Okay.
Yeah, I was into that since I was young. Like
Okay.
that's always been a passion of mine. And then you have people who they specifically ride or drive to avoid their feelings or to avoid what's going on, because once they get in the car or on the bike, they lose awareness of what's hurting. And so they use it as, instead of pills, they use that as their coping skill, but it becomes a catch-22 because the more they do it, the worse they get, the more they need it, right? So
And when they can't do it anymore,
and then who are they without the without the car? And then you have a midlife crisis because your identity. Yeah.
Or they could get to the point of being reckless at some point.
Totally.
Just keep getting
Absolutely.
worse and worse and worse.
Very cool.
So it is tied
right.
together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and your practice of your type of medicine and healing, it probably also is a huge reason why you're so successful at what you're doing, because your mind, body, and spirit, everything is like that's just you. That's, you know what to do. You work on yourself. So I'm sure that helps you as a person when it comes to writing. So
I think so, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, so you're going to be part of Miss Motorhead's
Yes.
event coming up.
Yes.
So tell us
Yes.
about what Sam's going to be doing and who else is participating.
Yeah. So, okay. So we have, it was hard for me because I have so many amazing women in my life that I want to like bring out and like showcase and have them
What an
talk
amazing
to other
problem
girls.
to have.
I
know,
know. I'm very lucky. I feel very lucky, especially being single, because I have all these amazing women around.
There's all
me
these
the
dudes trying to
time.
holler at you on Instagram right now.
I'm like, I don't need you. I got my girlfriend. But no, seriously, like, so I reached out to you because I met you, and you've just always you're just special. You're so special. So I reached out to you, and then there are a few women I met, like for instance, Hannah Burton. I met at Fujiwara. They did an autograph signing with her and a few other women racers from Japan. So I met her for the first time at Fujiwara. She actually signed my helmet, which I was like so excited. Hannah's awesome, super sweet girl. She's a race car driver from Japan. She's actually in Japan right now. She doesn't know if her race schedule will allow for her to be here, but she said if she's in the US, she's absolutely going to come. She's amazing. And we'll put information on everybody, but also there is my friend Krista, who Base Drift is her Instagram. She is somebody I met a few years back at a drift event, and she teaches race car driving. She's a drift driver. She does drifting. She lives in Vegas, and she's become one of my really good friends. So she's coming out here from Vegas for the event, and she's just super positive and supporting and wants to like help everyone, which I love. I love
the
her aura.
best.
She's amazing. And then Uni, we have Uni. Uni is like a kind of like a YouTube star. She's really good at like doing videos on how to work on your car and racing and how she got into racing. And I love her. I met her actually at a car show. It was actually at Cars and Coffee Classics Anaheim a few years back. And she just has this like great personality, and she's super positive. And I just love that she documents everything to show people like you can do it.
Yeah,
you know,
that's cool.
I love that.
and she has a lot of people who support her. So she's awesome. She's definitely said she's going to come out. And then Peyton is another drift girl who I met actually almost 2 years ago yesterday at my first drift event, Sparkle Motion, run by Kendall. And she's big in the drift community. She built her own car. She works on her own car. She's a mechanic, and she's known for having these like 4-inch long, almost like 4-inch long nails. She works wrenches on her car with these long nails. She's awesome. She's
Those
like,
nails are cool. You can pick up your 10
yeah,
mil.
there you go. She's like badass, and she's strong, and I just love her. She lives up north, but she said she's going to try and come out here as
cool.
well. So we have like a really cool mix of girls that are going to be at the
exciting.
event.
That's very cool.
I just want other women to meet these women so that they know that like you can do this too.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what? I really appreciate what you do with Miss Motorhead, mainly because the women that you associate yourself with or highlight or feature or collaborate with, they're not like, sorry if you just offend people, but they're not like a bunch of Kim Kardashians who are famous for being famous.
yes.
They
yes.
are providing a service, or they're into motorsports. They're doing something. They're not just pretty and they're just famous.
Yeah.
With a lot of followers. They're actually doing something,
Right.
and I really like that because you're promoting activity. You're promoting community engagement. You're providing a service basically.
Yeah, right.
And I feel like that's very important, especially for women, because we talked about this on
Yes.
previous shows where a lot of women are intimidated because of the male-dominated thing, and
Yeah.
they want help or they want encouragement or whatever, and they don't get that. So I think that's really, really important in the type of women that you collaborate with. Obviously, Sam here has a lot to offer with what she's doing is very unique.
Yes, yeah.
Probably didn't even know that women could do this or that was even a thing.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really important. I really do appreciate that
Right.
with Miss Motorhead and what you're doing.
If somebody wants to know about it and they want to go,
Yeah.
tell us where it is and the date and all that
okay,
stuff.
so Women's Month is March. International Women's Day is March 8th, which is a Saturday this year. And the event will be at Fujiwara Tofu Cafe, which is in El Monte. It is a night event, so it's from 7 to 10 p.m. It's a huge area, parking lot. You know, there's a bunch of like food places, and so it will fill up very fast because the last few events I went to were real busy, and these women themed events tend to get really big because not only do you have all the women who want to come out, you do have the men who want to be there as well to check out the women. Plus, I have a lot of guy friends who love to come and support, and
Sure.
which I appreciate so much. And we also have a bunch of sponsors who are helping with our event by donating stuff to our raffle, because for me, the main focus of the event is to support the Jessi Combs Foundation, which if you don't know what that is, Jessi Combs is the land speed record. She unfortunately passed away. We talked about this on one of the shows. She passed away during one of her attempts. And so they have a foundation started in her name that offers scholarships and support to women in the automotive industry. So when I went to SEMA this year, I got to meet a bunch of the women who run the program, a bunch of the girls who've gone through the program, welders, mechanics, just fabricators. Like it's amazing to see these young women and the things that they've been able to do because of the Jessi Combs Foundation.
I
So
got chills when you
I
talk
know,
about it.
it was so exciting. And so they're going to send me some stickers and stuff too to hand out to some of the girls. And I just think it's a super important foundation. And so all of the proceeds from the raffle will go to the foundation. and then a percentage of my merch that I sell that day will go to the
That's
foundation.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. So
Are you gonna have enough room for Sam to bust that out? Can you do a trick in like a parking stall? Is that?
I can do a burnout.
Hey,
you go.
everybody loves burnouts.
that's right.
I sure as hell do.
We're gonna see how big the space is.
Yeah.
And if it's like realistic or practical to do any tricks there,
Yeah.
and if so, I'll have my bike with me.
Yeah.
And
It's
if
better
not-
to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Yeah.
Well,
sometimes.
it's more about whether I feel confident to do it in a small space.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
I don't want
Safety
to
first.
send the bike into
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
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 Sam, thank you for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, so much
Yeah,
fun.
very
Thanks for
interesting.
having me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See, the
super
nervousness went away, right? No nervousness. It's
Yeah.
just people chatting,
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah.
I won't tell you if I'm nervous or not.
Was this your
If you
first-
couldn't tell, then we're
Couldn't
good.
tell. Couldn't tell.
Was this your first interview like on a podcast before?
I've done once before with a friend of mine
Okay.
on a different show, but this
Yeah.
was the first time with like a
We
bunch
were
of
better,
people.
right?
Strangers.
Well, I'm so glad
She
you
was
were able
pretty
to come.
hot.
CG, we're trying to end this on a good note. But come on, man. Come on.
By the way,
Yeah.
I know I mentioned Taylor Swift,
Yeah.
Oh God.
but I get.
Oh, boy, we're going
No,
back
I was
to
going to
the-
say you're curious probably what gets me in the zone.
Taylor Swift.
I don't.
No,
actually, I
it's
don't
not
want to
Taylor
know.
Swift.
I actually, I'm not curious.
I'm going to tell you anyway.
Oh fuck.
Yes.
Yacht Rock.
No.
No, that's too cool. That's too cool. That's too cool.
Pearl Jam, Nirvana.
Oh, look
Yes.
at you.
CJ
Okay.
Grunge.
Yep.
CJ is a
Wow.
grunge
Pearl
boy.
Jam, Nirvana.
Oh.
You said start that sucker.
You used
up.
to have long hair, right?
I did.
Yeah, you did, right?
Okay.
Well, he was a surfer. He's
All
a
right.
surfer,
Yeah,
so
so
it
I get
kind
it.
of makes
You
sense.
just got way cooler.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah, if I want to go to Mountain Road,
Okay.
You went up in
Music
coolness
and
on
go.
Christina's meter, so
Right.
that's
yeah, okay, good.
that's good.
I had to
Your
make up
daughters
for
are
the
still-
Taylor Swift comment.
Your daughters are still embarrassed.
I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, but I'll tell you, my son is. My
Is it really?
18-year-old son loves
Yeah.
Taylor Swift.
But also like no hate, no shade, right? Like
No,
Yeah.
no, no.
Hey,
Absolutely.
You like what you like.
To each their own.
and like yeah.
Except unless you're CJ.
No, I don't. The only problem I have with Taylor Swift is that she's dating a guy whose team is going to try and beat my
Let
Bills
her,
this
let
Sunday.
her
Oh,
make
yeah.
her choices.
That's the only
Let
problem.
her do her
That's
thing.
my only
Let her
problem
be
with her.
herself.
Let her make her own mistakes, man.
There we go.
See, and this is the thing is like when women are doing whatever it is that they're doing, whatever it may be, and like needing to deal with all the shit that comes
Other
along
stuff
with
that
that,
goes-
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
all the people and their opinions and what they think is
Yeah.
right or what isn't. Like if you have a preference for someone's music taste, that's fine.
Yeah.
If you're not into it, but like as a person, like let her do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Let her date who she wants. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta say, I'm sure you guys heard about, but she gave away like $50 million on her tour to like local charities and gave her crew like $100
Oh,
million.
yeah.
I mean, so I'm like,
Yeah,
I may
she's-
not be into her music, but as a
Yeah.
person,
Oh, totally.
she seems
Yeah.
like a really good person.
I'm only
Absolutely.
impressed with the financial write-off that is. So I can appreciate
Well,
her tax savvy.
Well, her dad's like a business manager, and her mom's yeah, but still,
Got to
I mean,
write off.
Yeah.
We got to write off.
But no one puts a gun to their head to say give your crew $100 million off your multi-billion-dollar tour like
Yeah.
that. I think that's pretty cool.
It is.
Wasn't there some guy who gave everybody cars on the set of their Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
I think he gave everybody
Yeah.
like I don't know Aston Martins on the set of one of his movies. Like,
Really?
A lot of the cool
I
big
did not
movie
know
stars,
about that.
Keanu Reeves has done that, like
Yeah, he's done
Harleys
that.
to the whole
That's
stunt
badass.
crew.
Yeah, but he's
and-
Yeah.
just a cool guy.
Keanu Reeves
Keanu's
races
cool.
now. He races 86s.
I know. You see that? That was pretty cool.
Keanu's cool.
Keanu.
I'll give him that. I'll give him that. He's
John
a cool
Wick
guy.
can drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a motorcycle guy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. That's
Yeah.
why he's cool.
Yeah.
This is
All
the part
right.
where we derail and close the
Yeah, I
show.
was about
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
All right. Sam, thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be back
Thank
on
you.
too. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Thanks for watching West of Tulsa. We've got our YouTube channel. I'm not even going to throw you in there.
Thank you.
It's since we're season
Thank you.
2,
I'm
you
over
don't
it.
even get a chance
I'm
anymore.
over
Yeah. westoftulsa.com. You can go there, fill out our tip line page.
Oh my god.
You remembered
know
it.
Yes, I know.
All right.
It's been a long time.
Good
I've been
thing
on a
nobody's
break for
watching
2
this.
months. All right. We'll see you west of Tulsa.